in the heart of the Black Forest, Schwarzwald, where ancient trees intertwine so tightly that sunlight becomes a faded memory, there once stood an old monastery. No official map bears its name. No one remembers exactly where it was. All that remain are a few scorched diary pages, a retracted forensic report, and 33 names, never carved into any gravestone. The fire happened in the year 1874, officially recorded as an accident, but the people of Bodenwald have another name for it, the fire that came from within. For nearly 150 years, that place has been a crack in Germany's historical memory. No one dares speak of it. Those who tried to investigate either gave up, vanished, or lost their minds. But today, we will look straight into it, into the fire that never went out, into a truth that perhaps even the church is not ready to face. This is not a folk tale. This is a documented case. There are medical reports, diaries, witnesses, and it begins with absolute silence. That monastery appears on no official map, but according to records from an old letter preserved in the Archdiocese Library of Freiburg, it was once known as the Monastery of Maria Lichtel, meaning Light of the Virgin Mary. It was built in the winter of 1829, deep within the Black Forest, nestled between two rocky mountain slopes where sunlight only flickered for a few hours each day. There were no cobbled roads, no nearby villages, only forest and the distant echo of bells. The monastery was founded by a group of young nuns, led by Sister Magdalene von Hoff, a woman who once studied theology in Austria, but abruptly abandoned all clerical positions to live in seclusion. She and 14 other nuns chose a life of isolation, cut off from the world, devoting their entire existence to prayer and caring for the abandoned. They took in orphans, lepers, and unwed pregnant women, those cast aside by society. The monastery became a refuge, known to some as the paradise at the forest's edge. But within just 10 years, rumors began to spread. Some merchants passing through claimed they heard strange harmonic singing in a language unlike any they had ever known. Others said that on moonless nights, a silver-white light would shine from the monastery's tower, sweeping through the forest as if searching for something. One postman quit his job after just 3 trips to the monastery. In his brief statement, he wrote only a single line: "They looked at me as if I was no longer among the living. The children who were brought there never returned, yet their parents never complained. It was as if they had forgotten they ever had children." The church sent inspectors several times, but no accusations were ever made, and all the reports were very brief, very clean, to the point of feeling fabricated. Only one detail chilled those who read them. Every person who had ever left the monastery alive, whether guest, volunteer, or investigator, did not live beyond 3 years afterward. And then, in 1874, the fire came. No one escaped. No one could explain it. But there was this: all 33 individuals inside the monastery that day were women, except for one shadow, faceless seen, standing by the window of the highest floor, just before the flames erupted. To understand why the incident at Maria Lichtel Monastery became so disturbingly strange, we must look back at Germany in the year 1874. It was a time of transition, instability, and deep unrest politically, religiously, and socially. The German Empire had only just unified 3 years earlier, in 1871, under Emperor Wilhelm I and Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. Though it was a new era, German society still bore the heavy imprint of ancient religion, local folklore, and centuries-old superstition. In the Black Forest region, where ancient legends never truly died, people still believed in forest spirits, mist walkers, and the souls of the unburied. The Roman Catholic Church held immense influence at the time, but that control was beginning to waver as Bismarck launched the Kulturkampf culture struggle aimed at reducing the Church's power. Monasteries, religious orders, and cloistered communities began to be viewed as potential threats, and it was in this very context that the monastery of Maria Lichtel came under scrutiny. It had never registered with the official monastic system. It operated without oversight from any regional bishop, and what raised the most suspicion was its finances. The monastery sold nothing, received no guests, and accepted no public donations. So how did they sustain themselves? Local budget records from 1872 to 1874 revealed something strange. Every month, a steady sum of money was transferred into an anonymous account at a bank in Munich nearly 400 kilometers away from the monastery. No one knew who sent it, and no one dared to ask. Amidst the storm of religious and political crisis, between faith and darkness, Maria Lichtel stood as a grey zone, belonging neither to the secular world nor truly to the sacred. People began calling it the Silent Monastery. No bells, no visitors. And then, in 1874, it went up in flames. The night of September 16th, 1874. A waxing crescent moon. No rain. The Black Forest was silent, drained of all life. Then, at approximately 3:14 a.m., a horse herder named Lucas Werner, who lived in the village of Beckel, nearly 3 kilometers from the monastery, claimed he was awakened by a light that was not fire, but like a twisted dawn breaking through the trees. When he stepped outside, he saw that the northern forest was glowing. There was no smoke, no screaming, no cries for help, just a radiant mass of red-orange light rising above the treetops, like the forest exhaling its final breath. Around 30 minutes later, when firemen from Titus and Neustadt arrived, the Maria Lichtel monastery had already collapsed. The stone walls still stood, but the wooden roof, bell tower, windows, altar, everything had turned to ash. There were no survivors. In the ruins, they found 33 bodies, all women, burned so completely that no soft tissue remained. But the strangest part was this: their bones were not charred, black, but crumbled into a fine white powder, as if scorched from the inside out. Another unusual detail: no one was found near the exits. No one had tried to run. No shattered windows, no signs of struggle, no fingernail marks, no screams were ever heard. They died, as if they had known, as if they had accepted it. Among the 33 bodies, 3 were discovered kneeling before the collapsed altar, their hands clasped together, the bones in their fingers crushed from how tightly they held on. 5 others were found in the basement where stone circle etched with ancient symbols had been scorched completely, except for a single embroidered cloth bearing a Latin phrase, Ubi ignis, ibi pactum, where there is fire, there is the covenant fulfilled. One witness, a local physician named Johannes Fellner, recorded in his journal that he saw a figure standing at the highest window of the monastery about 2 minutes before the roof blew apart, as if pushed from within. The figure wore a white robe, its face could not be seen, and what he remembered most was that it never moved, even as the flames rose up around it. No one else saw it, and Johannes disappeared just 1 week after writing that entry. No one from the nearby town dared approach the site. They whispered among themselves, "That fire wasn't of this world. Whoever steps into it will be remembered by something that should not exist." And to this day, no one knows where the fire began or who started it. Immediately after the fire, the authorities in the Taitisinustat district formed a special investigation council. At its head was the renowned forensic doctor of the time, Ernst Klein, a scholar once decorated for his contributions to the field of autopsy. On September 22, 1874, he submitted a preliminary report, 47 pages long, to the Archdiocese of Freiburg. But just 3 days later, the report was recalled and destroyed under the official reasoning, scientific inaccuracies causing public distress. Fortunately, a handwritten copy made by his assistant, Dieter Moller, had been hidden in a book chest in his grandfather's old monastery. That document was only discovered in 1961. What it contains is nearly beyond belief. Among the 33 bodies recovered, 19 showed signs that the fire had originated from within their chest cavities. Their hearts and lungs were carbonized, while their skin and nun habits were only lightly scorched. One victim's spine was twisted into a spiral almost, as if each vertebra had snapped individually during prayer. 2 skulls were found with no eye sockets instead, a smooth, unbroken bone surface, as if they had been born that way. A third woman, believed to be the Mother Superior, had every bone in her hands shattered but without any bruising or signs of struggle, as though she had clenched her own fists until they broke. Most notably, at the end of the report was a handwritten note seemingly added by Dr. Klein himself after completing the examination. It contained only 6 lines. They did not die from fire. They died from something not found in any textbook. Their blood changed color when exposed to candlelight. Their skin was cold as rotted wood, yet showed no swelling. The time of death was simultaneous. Now I understand why this place was hidden. A few weeks after the report was suppressed, Dr. Ernst Klein disappeared during a train journey from Stuttgart to Freiburg. His body was never found. As for Assistant Moller, the one who copied the only surviving version, he was later documented to have buried himself alive in 19-0-6 in a ritual the villagers called changing the body to earn rest. At that point, people began to wonder, was this truly an accident, or was it a ritual? Amid the crumbling ash of the Maria Lichtel Monastery library, a scorched oak drawer was found inside it, a small journal bound in goatskin and tied with a red cord. Over a third of it had been burned away. The opening line, written in Old German, read, Tagebuch der Schwester Margarethi. Mug Gott uns vergeben. Diary of Sister Margarethi. May God forgive us. At first, the diary recounted everyday matters, prayers, caring for the sick, tending to medicinal herbs. But as the entries continued, the tone shifted. It became erratic, disturbed. An entry from a night in April 1873. He came under the red moonlight. He did not knock, he did not take form, but we heard his heart beating within the stone walls. July that same year, another passage. The blood from the cut did not fall to the ground. It dissolved into the air. The newborn did not cry. It only stared at the lantern, as if it already knew everything. At one point, Sister Margarethi explicitly wrote that there were 5 subterranean levels beneath the monastery. The lowest, called the breathing chamber of the first one, a place only the Mother Superior was permitted to enter. No architectural plan has ever confirmed such a chamber existed. One page, framed separately, undated, bore a single sentence, written in black ink mixed with blood. We have offered everything. They come from fire. They do not need names. Immediately following was a description of a silent offering ceremony, in which 33 sisters knelt around a stone circle, reciting prayers in a language not learned, but heard only in dreams. She wrote, "Our tongues did not burn, even as we spoke his name backward 12 times. The diary ended with 2 final lines. The ink faded, as if washed away by tears or by something that was not water. The fire did not come from the heavens. It came from within us." Theological scholars have been unable to decipher most of the symbols scattered throughout the journal. Strange markings resembling a fusion of Phoenician script and ancient Druidic glyphs. One scholar reportedly lost his mind after spending 6 months attempting to decode them. That journal remains the only surviving record of what happened inside the monastery before the fire erupted. But instead of providing answers, it raises a far more terrifying question. Did the sisters set themselves alight, or did they offer their very flesh to something we should never name? Just 1 week after the fire, the entire area surrounding the Maria Lictal Monastery was sealed off. Documents, maps, journals, physical evidence, all were ordered to be confiscated under the pretext of public safety. Any information related to the monastery quickly vanished from the administrative records of the Bodin region. A topographic map from the year 1875, just 1 year later, no longer marked the Lictal forest as it once did. An official statement was released on September 24, 1874, clearly stating that fire at the Lictal religious facility was an accident caused by a fallen candle. There are no criminal or supernatural elements involved. All speculative or misleading rumors will be prosecuted under the National Religious Order Protection Act. However, that statement was never published in full by any newspaper. The media only reported a short brief: monastery burned, no survivors, no name of the monastery, no list of victims, not a single photograph released. In the 3 months following the incident, 5 local residents who had witnessed the fire went missing. One body was found floating in a nearby lake, mouth agape as if in a scream, tongue missing. Police concluded suicide due to prolonged insomnia. No further investigation was conducted. Soon after, records kept at the nearest church where information on the sisters was once stored were destroyed in a fire of unknown origin. The entire sanctuary burned only in one room, the one that held baptismal records and lists of clergy. Over 100 years later, independent theological researchers attempted to reconstruct the history of Maria Lictal, but all they recovered were undelivered letters, charred diary fragments, stories from the elderly, all as scattered as echoes from a fever dream. The Church has never officially acknowledged the existence of the monastery. Germany's National Archives contain no architectural record under the name Maria Lictal, as if the place never existed, as if it had been erased from this world not by fire, but by the will of some invisible power. The question is no longer what happened there. It is, why was it buried so completely? Who or what is so afraid of the truth being uncovered? They say, where mass death occurs, something unseen always lingers. But in the case of Maria Lictal Monastery, it does not just linger, it takes back. In 1936, 3 theology students from Freiburg set out to find the ruins of the monastery using descriptions from old maps that had been erased from the archives. They entered the forest on a sunny day in July. Only one returned. That Monandrius Keller was found at a forest rest station 3 days after disappearing. In his hand was a broken crucifix, his eyes wide and unblinking, and he never spoke again for the rest of his life. In his final recorded moment in 1972, Keller uttered only one sentence, whispering it over and over. "There is no way out. They are still there. They are not finished." In 1967, an Austrian explorer Wolfgang Tribe announced he had found a circular stone foundation deep in the Schwarzwald, where not a single tree had grown for centuries. 3 days after making the claim, he died by self-immolation in his own shed. Strangely, the fire burned at such extreme heat that even the nearby concrete walls warped. The forensic report noted one disturbing detail. The victim's spine was not burned, it shattered vertebra by vertebra, like a severed string of beads. Locals living along the edges of the Black Forest need no proof. They do not venture too deep into the woods, not even to forage or hunt. Folklore says that if you hear a chorus of prayers or voices in unison, as if 30 people are chanting together, you must turn back immediately. Do not take another step, for if you go 7 steps farther, your eyes will see, your ears will burn, your heart will stop. Others whisper that on one night every 33 years in September, the fire reappears, but only to those whose bloodline carries an old debt. In 2007, an American documentary filmmaker, Judith Lawan, traveled to the Lichtal region with modern equipment, drones, GPS tracking. All her cameras short-circuited as soon as they entered the forest. In Judith's personal journal, the last handwritten line reads, "I saw the dome. I heard them sing, and I understand. Some things are not meant to be filmed." She disappeared the next day, without a trace. The ruins of the monastery have never been officially verified, but they have never ceased to exist in the scars of those who crossed its path. That fire cannot be seen with the eyes, cannot be extinguished with water, and is not meant for humankind. By now, more than 10 theories have been proposed about the fire at Maria Lichtal Monastery, from a simple, accidental blaze, to spontaneous combustion triggered by medieval chemicals, to an unorthodox religious ritual that defied canon law. Some even believe it was a gate that had been opened. Certain scholars suggest the nuns of Lichtal were not heretics, but a forgotten offshoot of early Christianity, one that preserved rituals the Vatican discarded as far back as the 4th century. They did not worship fire, they did not sacrifice, but they believed the divine could be reached through heat, a spiritual flame not born of matter, but of the desire to transcend human limitation.